welcome to Morseterpiece Theatre. I am your host, Alistair Dixie, and tonight we shall be reading an excerpt from the wonderful literary master, the literary Morseterpiece, Mother's Day, written by Mr. Dan Foxx. I'm Eric Morse, I'm sorry. Or is it Morris? It seems to be more of a debate on the pronunciation of his last name than who actually wrote this piece of literature, if we can use that very lightly. And there's no tobacco in here. But tonight, on to this reading in my normal voice. Sippe, sippe. Tonight we shall be reading from... Alright, something stuck in my teeth. We're still there. Oh. Tonight we will be reading from Mother's Day by Eric Morse. Maybe this should be Morseterpiece Theater. We will be reading from Mother's Day, chapter 4 and 5, which actually looks like a kind of a short section. Excuse me. But chapter 6 looks to be a very long section. I have not read ahead, but I did pull out 6 when I saw how short this was, thinking I would read it. But anyway, we will see. We will not waste too much time here, so that maybe we can get even deeper into the author's twisted homoerotic writings. So, without further ado, Mother's Day, chapter 4 and 5. Chapter 4, Worrying. Because the author was worried he wouldn't get to attend conventions and meet his fans. Little did he know he would have no fans. Chapter 4, Worrying. 7 miles from Neds Gas, outside a small cottage set in the woods. 1, 2, 3, 4 periods. Supposedly an ellipse, although it's ending a sentence. A woman in a faded red house dress was unpinning a batch of stiff, wind-dried clothes from her clothesline. Then she heard a car. She turned to watch her husband's beat-up blue Land Rover power up the sandy drive. Her husband waved and smiled broadly as he got out. The woman felt her stomach flutter with tension. She knew that smile. Daddy wants some lovin'. It was a smile her husband used when he wanted to put her at ease, and it only served to worry her more. Because the chapter is called Worrying. What's wrong? She asked as a large, heavyset man walked toward her. Heavyset's not one word. Maybe you can get away with that. He kept smiling. You read me too well, you know that? She wasn't delayed by his compliment. What the fuck does that mean? What is it? What's happened? Oh, it's probably nothing, he said, in a way that said it was definitely something. In fact, I'm sure it's nothing. The man took off his red and blue New England Patriots cap and scratched his mostly bald head. The woman waited. It's just, well, I've been trying to reach Joe Travers this past couple of days, he said. No luck. Who the fuck is Joe Travers? Oh, the woman said, visibly relieved. Quotation marks, space, well, you know Joe, he goes off on those jaunts of his, poaching up a storm. Jaunts. Is this our hunter from the first couple of chapters? Does he have a name? 4 fucking chapters in? Her husband didn't look convinced, but he nodded. I mean, she said, Joe can take care of himself if anyone can. Why, the worst thing that's ever happened to Joe Travers was losing that finger, and that was in his own trap. I know, her husband said. But there's more. A long space before the period. I just went by his cabin. There's a Mother's Day card Joe had made lying on the kitchen table. It's a lot of fucking Mother's Day celebration going on here. Well, what's wrong with that? Asked the woman, smiling in surprise. I bet he don't have a mama. Her husband looked back at her blankly. Joe's mother has been dead for 5 years. Oh shit. Ooh, creepy, creepy. The husband and wife looked at each other for a moment until the wife shivered and looked away. Quotation mark space, well, hey, she said as she busied herself with the laundry. Maybe the card's for me, she winked. Here, help me with this. She handed him one end of a sheet to be folded. The husband held his end of the sheet. She held hers. God damn the action. As she walked toward him, she said, stop worrying. He'll turn up. Besides, that hangdog look of yours is giving me the willies. Author mention, as well as mentioning in the chapter again. It's just 3 periods. He made an ellipse correctly. And it's actually, like, it's used correctly. He trailed off, apparently at a loss for words. It's somewhat used correctly. It's just what? Well, you know, hyphen. There's been so much trouble around these parts. I feel like I've developed a sixth sense for it. And, little hyphen, big hyphen. He smiled nervously, as if aware that what he was about to say was going to sound silly. It's gotten so I feel it, you know? When it's coming. I can feel it in the air. Tonight. I ad-libbed the tonight. You know, the only fucking mistakes he's made so far are these weird-ass skips, and it's making his shit even more boring. It's better when he misspells shit and calls people by the wrong name. I can feel it in the air. That's ridiculous, said the woman. But of course she didn't think it was ridiculous at all. She knew exactly what her husband meant, because she could feel it too. And she'd been feeling the same way all day. Something was worrying her. 3rd time. Had been since she woke up. Something was wrong. She stacked the neatly folded sheet on top of the rest of her wash and the blue plastic basket. She scooped up the basket, then started for the back door. She didn't put the lotion in the basket. So he's going to give her the hose a little bit later. I'm going to call Sheriff Delaney, the man said flatly when her back was turned. Suit yourself, the woman called back. She was almost at the door when her husband said, Hold it! He stepped quickly ahead of her so he could open the cottage himself. Oh, bullshit. Well, well, she said. I guess chivalry isn't dead after all. He spelled chivalry right. I'm like fucking blown away impressed. Then the husband opened the door and the deafening blast of the hunter's shotgun caught him in the face. You might say it was the husband's final act of chivalry. Died an instant before his wife. You left out a word, at least one. So now we have a Friday the 13th movie where a man gets killed with a gun. By, I'm assuming, the Jason baddie. Baddie. Hold on. Fuck this shit. Hold on. Let me double check or something. Okay. Sorry about that. In chapter 4, I guess that's supposed to be like a shocking come out of nowhere death. The husband's... I'm not going to get into it. Okay. Chapter 5, Ned's Gas. We were near Ned's Gas a while ago. Now we're like actually at Ned's Gas. Hopefully. And hopefully he won't mention it as many times as he did worrying. Monique was kicking the dusty ground in disgust as Carrie got out of the car. Boone, you call this a gas station? She complained loudly. Boone was rapping on the shack door. What you doing? Monique demanded. There is no one there, I telling you. This whole place is desert. Monique is supposed to be French, so he types like he's special needs. Like French special needs forces. Deserted, Boone corrected her with an easy grin. Hey, he waved at Carly and Paul. Carly waved back, not noticing that Carrie was there. Then she dropped her head back and took a deep breath. It was amazing. The air smelled so clean and fresh it almost stung her lungs. Slowly and with difficulty, Albert, who is like the stand-in for our author, I believe, was squeezing his large body out of the small car. He was clutching his big stomach with one hand. He had loosened his belt. Wow, he said, I think we just did some time travel. Look at this place. We're back in the 1930s. It's the Great Depression, Charlie Brown. He didn't say Charlie Brown. Once again, I ad-libbed it to make it better than it actually fucking is. It's the Great Depression, Charlie Brown. That would be a great piece of dialogue for a fat fuck to say as he gets out of the car. I'm a fat fuck, so I can call other people fat fucks. Hey! Boone suddenly yelled. He started running toward the road and waving his arms. Hey, Kyle! Kyle! God damn you! He was too late. The psychedelic VW had driven right by the gas station. Unbelievable, Albert said, laughing and shaking his head. They missed it. They were fucking lined up, like, one behind the other. How do you fucking not see two vehicles in front of you turn off? Stupid, stupid fucking writing. A moment later, the old van came into view again, backing up. The VW's doors opened, letting out a blast of Jimi Hendrix on Kyle's tape deck. We were listening to some really heavy tunes, Kyle explained sheepishly as he and Suzanne joined the rest of the group. We totally spaced out, Suzanne said. Gee, Boone said, what a shocker. Paul asked, so what's the story? Are we lost? We're fine, Boone said. In fact, we could walk to the campsite from here. Campsite from, one word. Monique just wanted to use the Jod. Except there is none, Monique said, pouting and showing off her full red lips, which she had kept stealthily hidden up until then. Are you kidding? Boone spun around, gesturing with his long arms. Monique, look around you. Nothing but woods, nothing for miles. Carly smiled. She had never seen Boone look so happy. In Newkirk, he always looked like he was brooding about something. Because he's a bad guy, remember? He's a bad boy. Even when he was partying, out here he seemed totally free. You can just see Boone like dancing around and shaking his ass while brooding. I'm serious, he went on. We're in the wilds now. You can go to the bathroom anywhere you like. Go ahead. We won't peek. Because he's a bad boy, but he's polite. Boone's right, Kyle said thoughtfully. I mean, after all, what are we? Really? We're just part of nature, right? Part of the food chain. That's comforting, said Albert. Monique, excuse me one second here while I make a... Now, we're back. That's comforting, said Albert. Monique was jabbing Boone in the ribs. You are disgusting, she told him. Listen, Albert told Boone, if we're not lost, I think we should hurry up and get to the campgrounds, don't you? I mean, don't we need to set up and everything before it gets really dark? Boone draped a long arm around Albert's round shoulders. Albert, he said in a mock fatherly tone, let me explain something to you, okay? We're all here to party and chill and have a good time. Do yourself a favor. Don't worry so much. Me worry. Never. That's bad. Forget I said that. No. Everyone started laughing. Carly held back. She didn't want this trip to turn into pick on Albert time. Guys, I'm telling you, I've outdone myself. You won't believe how beautiful these campgrounds are. And get this, the whole campsite is totally 100% people free. People free? Albert looked worried all over again. Why? Is there something wrong with the place? Boone frowned. But he frowns all the fucking time. He's always brooding, remember? Didn't you tell him, Paul? Oh, gee, Paul said, slapping Albert on the back. I forgot. Forgot what? Carly found herself asking along with Albert. Well, see, it's like this, Boone said. He squinted up at the setting sun while brooding, taking his time. There's a legend about these parts. Space, period. They say there's this death curse, summoning up Crazy Ralph. Albert's mouth opened in horror. Death curse? I'm out of here. You misspelled outa. It's a slang word and you fucking misspelled it. It's O-U-T-T-A is the correct way to spell that. Your spell check would even call that shit. Oh, please, Carly scoffed. There is no such thing as a death curse. A death curse! Still, she felt a tingle of fear race down her spine and her long neck. Yes, Albert, can't you tell he's teasing? Monique added, with her French accent completely gone. Don't be such a baby. Monique looked pretty scared herself. That's right, Paul said. There's nothing to be scared of, unless, he paused dramatically. Why are you not using a lips this time? You totally throw your lips away and you fall in love with the hymen. I mean, the hyphen. Have I been saying hymen all this time? We'll just burst on through and carry on. Unless what? Suzanne asked, her eyes wide. Unless you believe in the undead, Paul finished. I was hoping he was going to say magic. Once again, good line. Holy fucked. Unless you believe in the undead, asked Kyle. He whistled. Cool. Monique put her hands over her ears. This is not funny. I get scared now. Back to the bad French accent. I get scared now. All right, guys, said Carly. You can stop trying to frighten us. To Monique, she added, don't pay any attention. Of course I want, Monique sneered, looking superior. I was just teasing. Paul and Boone looked at each other. Well, do you want to tell them or should I? Paul asked. Oh shit, there's more. Go ahead, Boone said. Well, Paul began, this camp we're going to, there used to be a real camp here a long time ago. Excuse me. Camp Crystal Lake, period. Not a sentence. But then this boy, Jason, he drowned. See? Edward G. Robinson, he drowned, see? We're gonna kick you out. We're gonna shoot you. See? I don't know. Whatever. This boy, Jason, he drowned. See? Period. While some counselors were, doing it. Suzanne giggled nervously. And I just figured out why our author, Mr. Eric Morse, likes Friday the 13th so much. I've only got 2 pages left. I'll finish reading this and then we'll go into why Eric Morse likes Friday the 13th so much, beyond the fact that he wrote these 4 shit books. So his mother, Mrs. Voorhees, She went berserk and murdered the counselors who were responsible, except she was never caught. Never caught? Albert asked. I'm sorry. Never caught? Albert repeated stupidly, because the author and Albert, his stand-in, are stupid. Paul ignored him, but the deaths kind of put a crimp in the camp schedule. Ha ha, so they closed the place down. Oh, Paul ignored him, and I totally missed there's a period and then start back. It would have been nice if Paul ignored him and continued, so therefore I would know. I should have called the quotation mark still though. It's mi culpa. My bad. Paul ignored him, but the desk kind of put a crimp in the camp schedule. Hyphen, haha, period. So they closed the place down. But then, Boone picked up the story. Horrible comma placement. But then, Boone. Why is there a comma after Boone? You don't want to pause there. You pause there, you throw shit off. But then Boone picked up the story smoothly. No, but then Boone picked up the story smoothly as all heads turned to watch him. Put a comma after smoothly if you want to. You don't. It's not necessary, but it helps out. You don't put a comma after Boone. That's just idiotic. I mean, that's like fucking first grade idiotic. But then Boone picked up the story smoothly as all heads turned to watch him. Years later, some guy decided to open the camp back up, and he had all the counselors there for pre-camp. And the boy's mother, this Miss Voorhees, she was still crazy and she still wanted revenge, so she killed all the new counselors. Gosh darn it. All? Monique asked in a hollow voice. All but one. Like, if he'd killed half the camp counselors, Monique would have been cool with it. But all? That's bad in my French accent. That's no good. Why'd she kill all? Why doesn't she leave 15? Kill 5. All? Monique asked in a hollow voice. A hollow voice. All but one, Boone said. This girl survived because, in quotation, hyphen, he cackled hysterically, hyphen, quotation marks, she chopped off the old lady's head. Oh, that's really funny, Boone, Carly said. Very mature. She was mad for several reasons. For one thing, he was succeeding in scaring her, and she hated that. For another, if he was telling the truth in any way, then she was mad she hadn't heard all this way before now. The more she scowled, though, the harder Boone laughed. Tell what happened next, he told Paul between wheezes and chuckles. Next, Paul looked confused. Oh yeah, then the story gets really weird. Beheading camp counselors isn't fucking weird. Then the story gets weird, Albert asked in a high voice. Up till now it was what? Normal? You see, Paul said solemnly, legend has it that Mrs. Voorhees, God damn it, Mrs. Voorhees, you should have a apostrophe there somewhere, dickhead. Mrs. Voorhees' head was never found, just her body. He burst out laughing as well. But the best part, there's more, Boone said. The legend about Mrs. Voorhees' son, and he put the apostrophe there. Hey. The legend about Mrs. Voorhees' son, Jason. The locals think the guy, mid-sentence will have like a paragraph break of about 5 lines. The locals think the guy keeps coming back from the dead. They think he's like this monster that hunts the lakes. Carly glanced around the group. Albert, Suzanne, and Monique were all looking terrified. But for Carly, anger was rapidly replacing fear. Grrr! Grrr, Carly, smash! Is any of this true? She demanded, staring straight at Paul. When he finally stopped laughing, he said, It's all true, actually. He gave her an apologetic shrug. For a moment, everyone was silent. Then Carly turned to Boone and said evenly, "Why didn't you tell me this last night?" When I was thinking about fucking Paul Sexton. I know I should have. But then, you wouldn't come, would you? Now he starts fucking up when we get near the end. He's like the double words and shit. But then, you wouldn't have come, would you? And the thing is, the place is perfectly safe now. I don't know why I gave that a menacing tone. That's like the opposite of menacing. And the thing is, the place is perfectly safe now. I mean, that's why it's such a great party spot. No one ever comes out here. Ever. They're too spooked. And all this happened years ago, Paul added. Okay, I may be missing a page, so let me... No, my bad. I just didn't pick the last page up. Oh. That's an elevator. Alligator music is better than elevator music. Listen to some alligator music while I find the last page. Oh, here it is. The way we were. So much for trusting Boone, thought Carly, and so much for the elevator music. You didn't have time to get into it and get an erection from those soft, dulcet tones. So much for trusting Boone, thought Carly. She sighed. Ah. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4. I think it's 4 periods. Well, 4-period ellipse. There was no going back now. She would have to make the best of it. She's going to make the best of Paul's cock. Well, somebody is. Maybe Albert. And then something happened that took the sting right out of the whole situation. Paul put his arm around her waist. "Don't worry," he said. "I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it was safe. Or you didn't think he was going to get lucky. And if anything happens, I'll protect you." The feel of his hand pressing through her shirt was electric. Monique started punching Boone's arm. "I'd kill you!" You should do that like in the fucking hand puppet of the guy whose name I can't think of. "I'd kill you!" Monique started punching Boone's arm. Arabs are French, aren't they? "I'd kill you," she said. Boone held up his hands as if defending himself. "Oh no," he said. "Here we go. It's the death curse. You're doomed!" Everybody's Crazy Ralph tonight. Boone held up his hands. Oh, I already read that. Okay. I'll read it again. Boone held up his hands as if defending himself. "Oh no," he said. "Here we go. It's a death curse." Everyone started laughing, which helped release the tension. Then Kyle started howling like a wolf. Why? I don't know why, but that's just so fucking out of nowhere. You know the writer is like part of this little gay clique called the Wolf Pack, so that's probably why. Even like this is like he's always wanted to be in the Wolf Pack, so he's having his character howl like a wolf, which made everyone laugh harder. Because I always laugh whenever I hear a wolf howl, especially by some guy dressed like a hippie starts howling like a wolf because you're talking about a death curse. The group's laughter grew and grew until Paul said, "Hey." He didn't say it loudly, but the urgency in his voice frightened Carly all over again. She turned fast to look at Paul. The look on his face made her heart start to pound. The way Paul was staring. It looked as if he were watching something right behind her. "Someone's coming," he said. Okay, chapter 6 is long, and we're on 29 9 minutes. So I guess that's going to be it as far as reading it. That was shit. That was more boring than this stuff normally is. So this is probably a boring ass video, and the alcohol didn't even kick in until like the last 5 minutes. But as I said earlier, if you don't know much about the author, he claims he was picked out of Kmart by Berkeley Books. Literally went from stocking, never having written shit except some fan fiction on a website, and was picked by Berkeley Books to write 4 Friday the 13th young adult novels. So it's kind of like this gigantic universal coincidence with actually a giant universal prank on anyone who likes to read or any Friday the 13th fans. It was like the universe bent Friday the first. It was like the universe bent over the Friday the 13th fans and fucked them up the ass without any lubrication. That's what picking Eric Morse to write these books was. But there wasn't even a whole lot of gay stuff in that chapter, so it was really funny. And once again, no offense to my gay friends. I know you don't want Eric Morse to be gay no more than I want him to be straight. But reading this, it finally came to me exactly why he has an affection for Friday the 13th. And I've always called him a poser. I always said, you don't give a shit about Friday the 13th. You just want to be famous, and this was your little avenue to do it. But you didn't give a shit about the actual series. But I think you do like Friday the 13th. I think I know why. What is the central motivation of Jason as far as when he kills people? In almost all the movies. It doesn't play out that way with every victim. But for the most part, Jason is kind of a moralistic killer. Who does he kill? At least who does he kill first? The people who are committing sins, especially those base, deadly sins. You know, the people who are fornicating, having sex before marriage, smoking dope, drinking underage, skinny dipping, all those things that are like immoral to a sort of conservative lifestyle. That's who Jason goes after and kills. You know, it's always been kind of a running joke. You know, if you want to survive, don't screw, don't drink, don't smoke dope. Probably don't speed, don't curse, don't do anything, or Jason will get you. And I know that the author, number one, he hates people who drink. And if you drink at all, you're a drunkard. Of course, he hates people who use drugs, and he thinks everyone he doesn't like is a drug user, pretty much. When he talks about conventions are full of drunks and drug dealers. And we all know that he has no luck with the women's. And he also thinks, he's made comments about how, you know, I'm trying to frame this right. I'm looking for the correct way to frame this because I literally just hit this up. We know he has a feeling about people who just like drink and fool around and have sex, about how that's kind of disgusts him. So I think he kind of identifies with Jason, that all these people who like have sex and party are all evil and all deserve to be killed. Ties in with his book Psychotic State, where he is his wet dream of killing everyone who picks on him. So I think that's why he really appreciates Jason. And it literally just hit me that was his motivating force in liking Friday the 13th movies, because he identified with Jason. He thinks people who have premarital sex and lewd, one-night stand type relationships are evil and scuzzy, and he wants to do like Jason and chop them up into pieces. Luckily, he can't really get around very well. But anyway, that's it. We have now hit the 30-minute point. I'm sorry that this was boring, but actually, the chapters were, they were more boring. I mean, the whole book is bad. I'm going to assume. I haven't read past that. But at least the first couple of chapters were funny bad. This was just boring bad. I really could dissect that scene with the shotgun and the two people, but it's really bad. And so This is your host, Alistair Dixie, saying if it's not quite good enough to be a masterpiece, it's probably an okay work of fiction anyway. However, if what you're reading is so fucking bad that you've got to drink to get through it, you might be reading a Morseterpiece. Or a Morseterpiece. So from all of us here at Morseterpiece Theatre and Lord Dixie's Document, this is your host, Alistair Dixie, saying, I'm holding my pipe wrong, that's what I'm saying. Good night, farewell, and gore and scares.